It's my first day of third grade, and I'm so excited because we had just moved to a new town. So this is an adventure. New school, new friends, and my brand new glasses. I'm standing on the playground, and the other kid walks up about my size with this thick dishwater blonde hair and says, "Hey, want to fight?" No? Well, I do. And next thing I know, I'm in a headlock and the punches are just coming and coming and coming, and I can feel my face being squeezed, and it's like my hair's being ripped out of my scalp. Now, I'm 8 years old. This is a new experience for me. And finally, he loosens his grip just enough that I'm able to pull out and break free. My glasses, they're broken. I look up at Buddy, and now he looks scared, looking at the kid whose glasses he just broke. And all I can think to myself is, run, get away as fast as you can. And so that's what I did. I get home, totally devastated. My mom sits me in her lap, puts her arm around me and says, "Bub, you did the right thing to not fight back. You just turn the other cheek and they'll leave you alone." Okay? Mom's always right, right? So fourth grade comes. It was Colin with his red hair and freckles, and I turned the other cheek, and he didn't leave me alone. And the next year, it was Greg with his tough guy strut. In junior high, it was Santos, our all-star running back, and then Robert, and then Dean, and I never fought back, and they never left me alone. In high school, it was this little punk, Rawl, who would punch me almost every day, and I just took it. Bobby Flick, my friend, would say, "Just stand up to him. Don't let him push you around." And Bobby was right, but my mom said, "Turn the other cheek." I never thought of myself as being bullied. It's just the way it was. It's just life. My first bully showed up my senior year. My first adult bully showed up my senior year in high school. We just moved to another new town, and it was rumored that I might be the best player on a basketball team that was supposed to win state that year. Only I was a new kid, and Coach Reeves, he didn't like it. I missed a layup my first game, and he benched me permanently. And then he told me later, "If you want to sit on the bench all season, okay, or you can quit." I quit the game that I love. I graduated from college, got my first job, and got bullied. I was bullied in my marriage, not that my wife was a bully, but because I avoided confrontation at all costs. 17 years of marriage, no exaggeration, 3 daughters, and not a single fight with my wife in 17 years. Why? Because I turned the other cheek. Until one day all the problems explode, and just like third grade, I broke out of the headlock, the headlock of wedlock, and ran away. Only this time, now what's broken is a lot more than a pair of glasses. We typically think of bullying as a childhood problem. Yes, it is a childhood problem, and yet many are shocked to realize that one of the greatest oppressors of our time is adult bullying. What is adult bullying? Well, adult bullying is this. Now, it's from a classic 1942 ad campaign by Charles Atlas. Not a textbook definition, but sometimes a comic book definition is a lot more clear and just as relevant. And along with a little show of power to show you who's who. Bullying plays out countless times a day all over the world. In the workplace, when the boss threatens an employee and says, "Hey, you want to keep your job? Shut up." Or maybe a coworker who rudely walks into your presentation late just to throw you off your game. In a recent survey of more than 2,000 adults, 31% of adults say that they have been bullied. In a survey of 9,000 federal employees, 57% said they had been bullied in the last 2 years. And yes, the federal government has anti-bullying policies. And by the way, if you're bullied at work, 65% chance you're the one that's going to lose your job. And over 80% chance you're the one leaving, not the bully. It's been estimated that bullying costs businesses about $300 billion a year in lost productivity, absenteeism, and turnover. And yet I believe much more significant and pervasive than the impact of bullying on businesses and organizations' balance sheets is the internal and personal impact on the individual, the victim, the target, the person. And of course, adult bullying isn't limited to on the job. It's just as prevalent at home, in families, in marriages, in our communities, on the street, if you've driven in LA traffic lately, in politics, on the beach, everywhere. And again, it isn't the external results that are as impactful as the internal repercussions, the emotional and psychological damage to people's self-worth, to their confidence, to their dignity. Now, this stuff will probably never make the front page headlines, but I want to share with you 3 big truths about the oppression of adult bullying that at least should make the comic section. So the first big truth of bullying is how personal it is. Now, bullying isn't a big deal if you've never been bullied. It's kind of like, what's the difference between major surgery and minor surgery? Well, if I have it, it's major. If you have it, it's minor. And that's pretty much the way we feel about things. The way people feel about bullying, they can't relate, so it must not be a big deal. Corporate anti-bullying policy is typically created by people in positions of power who've never been bullied. 73% of them don't even see bullying as a problem at all. And yes, it's very personal when you're the one being bullied. Even when others tell you, oh, don't let it bother you, little boy. Psychotherapist Janice Harmon at Psych Central suggests that bullying is not about you. She says, you're not the one with the problems, so you should never take bullying personally. Excuse me, counselor, with all due respect, when you're the one getting punched and threatened every day, it's personal. When a coworker accuses you of saying something you didn't say, yes, now I have a problem because of the one with a problem. When a bullying husband tells his wife every day how worthless she is, it's personal. The second big truth of bullying is how helpless you feel. Now again, this may come as a shock to some of you, but the real issue is not the bullies. It's the fear and the feeling of helplessness to do anything about it. The effect of bullying is like living under a cloud of constant fear of shame, a cloud of constant fear, shame, and anxiety that suffocates self-worth and kills our dreams. And that is probably the real cost of bullying. For me, it was this feeling that I couldn't stand up for myself. See, I would always do well at everything in my life until a conflict showed up. And then I would back down and run away. Sometimes the bullies were another person, but just as often the bullies were the invisible inner bullies of fear and self-doubt. And as crazy as it may sound, the internal demons that tell us you're not worthy may be the most dangerous bullies of all. I coach salespeople and have worked with thousands of them, and I've discovered that the big bad wolf of personal fears and insecurities probably pushes more of us around than all other types of adult bullies combined. But either way, the effects are just the same. The targets of bullying are not bullied because they're too weak to fight back, but typically because they won't stand their ground. And when you react to a bully by backing down in fear, the bully just got what they wanted. You see, the talk about anti-bullying policy and safe spaces has not worked, and it will not work. Number one, because bullying pays. And number two, because bullies aren't stupid. They're smart, they're cunning, they're masters of stealth, just like the big bad wolf. They don't target you when you're in the safe space. And often, they're the ones in power, so there is no safe space. The third big truth about bullying is how fixable it is. And again, this may shock you, but the solution is not external, it's internal. Here. Bullying will never be conquered at the corporate or public level. It can only be stopped at the individual level. Just like the problem is personal, so is the solution. And that's what Mac finally figured out in his kick the chair moment after being pushed around and humiliated at the beach. He decided to do something about it. Now, he didn't do it alone. He found someone to help. In this case, Charles Atlas with his leopard tights. And armed with his free book, he armed himself. Now, notice that one word, later. That represents all the hard work required to develop the personal strength to stop being bullied. It won't happen overnight, but it can be done. Now, how did I stop bullying? Well, it started with me going skydiving. I still don't understand the cute little helmets they make us wear, but I faced my lifelong greatest fear, which was the fear of heights, and I jumped. And that day, when I jumped out of that airplane, I made a commitment that I will never let fear stop me again. I had spent so much of my life avoiding any possibility of conflict, so long hiding in fear of bullies, that my greatest bully had become fear itself. And that day I chose to start living with courage. You see, each person who has been bullied has to come to that kick the chair moment when you decide that you're not going to take it anymore. When you decide that you're not going to wait for someone else to come and rescue you, and you take responsibility for your own future, and then you take action. For me, I started attending self-improvement seminars. I walked on fire at a Tony Robbins event, and step by step, my personal strength and confidence grew. Attend self-improvement seminars, join a self-defense class, learn martial arts, master something that gives you confidence and courage and a feeling of personal control that nobody can take away. There is no other solution. You become your own walking safe space. Become the person that no one can bully, not because they're scared of you, but because there's no power that they can take from you. You see, Charles Atlas had it right. At least he had it right to hear personal strength and confidence. And then he blew it because he made it about getting revenge and, of course, getting sex. But again, that's because Charles Atlas was a marketer, not a humanitarian, so I guess we can cut him a little slack here. See, personal strength does not make you a bully, but rather it makes you a bully repellent. A master of self-defense has lethal power, yes, and they almost never use it. What Bruce Lee called the art of fighting without fighting. Now, this is not the easy path, but it is the only path that will win. Personal strength and confidence is the true safe space, because that you can take with you everywhere. And by the way, so can an 8-year-old on his first day of 3rd grade. Now, I know my mom meant well, and sometimes turning the other cheek may be the right thing, but what's going to make bullies leave you alone is when they know that you don't have to. And I think all of our moms will be proud.